Hey, what is up guys? DRC3 here, back with another My Hero Ultra Impact video, and today we're going to be doing a VE Tower tier list for all the UR characters in game. Now, my tier list format has changed, so keep that in mind. It'll be very different from the previous tier list you saw. I did place all of these characters in ahead of time with the exception of the characters you see at the bottom for the to be determined, because those are the newer characters. I am pretty happy with where I put most of these characters, and now the tier list goes in order of most useful basically to least useful. So at the top we have Fantasy Todoroki, of course, who is like the most useful PvE character or VE Tower character in the game. Then we have Bakugo, the Fantasy Bakugo, still very useful. We have the New Year's Todoroki, who's ridiculous with his technicals and status elements, and Dabi with his Hellfire has been very useful as well. Like, these I would argue are the four most useful VE Tower units. They get used consistently every single VE Tower. And then below that we have A rank. A rank is not like far off from S rank. They're really close to each other, and these characters are used very often, but not necessarily every single VE Tower. So there we have Fantasy Jiro, we have Yellow Aizawa, Green Present Mike, Yellow Present Mike, Purple Endeavor, Yellow Fantasy Kaminari, and Green Todoroki. And I think pretty much everybody would agree, anyone who's ever played VE Tower, that these top two rows are the characters you see most often in VE Tower. And then we get down to B, where moderately used, like Ida, you'll see him used moderately. Purple Kaminari, you'll see him used moderately. Same with Fantasy Ida and all these other characters. And I'm not going to go through every single row here and every single character because that would take forever to explain, but look through the tier list for yourself and I think you guys will understand why I have placed the characters where I placed them. So with that said, let's get started with Green Bakugo. So Green Bakugo has a lot of crit. Like, he's a crit machine. He has stackable damage, right? But that stackable damage doesn't mean a whole lot in VE Tower, especially because VE Tower, you want to get it done anywhere between 3 turns to 6 turns, depending on the VE Tower you are doing. And so stacking damage, we're just going to forget about that. It's not really useful, but he does have a lot of crit, and every 3 crits he gets, he lowers his cooldowns by 1. So that's actually really useful as well. And then he also has a status element, and his status elements are also good for VE Tower. So because he has all those things going on for him, I would put him in moderately useful, actually. It's just that we don't see a whole lot of him because I don't think a whole lot of people pulled on his banner because it was, you know, right before the anniversary, and people weren't going to waste their hero gems on him, and they probably, if they did pull him, like myself, don't have him level up. I think mine is still level 80, and so because he's not leveled up, they're not using him as much in VE Tower. And I know you don't need to level up characters a ton to do VE Tower, but you do still need to level them up a little bit, and they probably just have them sitting there. So Bakugo, I think he has a lot of potential. He is a crit machine. He has some status elements going on. I think he can actually be very useful in VE Tower, and I think we need to do a little bit more testing with him as a community. But for right now, I'm going to put him in B tier. The next character we're going to place is Midnight. Midnight, oh my gosh, this character is insane. I can't believe they put this before the anniversary as well. This was like, it felt painful for anyone if you weren't summoning for Midnight, right? Like, you felt like you had to summon for her because she is that good in VE Tower. She has double status elements on 1 action skill if the opponent is a male, right? So she has her charm and she has her stun, and it hits all opponents, which is ridiculous. So you could potentially get, if you were going against 3 opponents in a VE Tower and they're not immune to status elements, you could potentially get 6 status elements in 1 turn with 1 character. She is a little bit ridiculous. And then she also has plus ultra raise. She has technical hits on both her action skills, and then she also has crit rate up for UA high students, and then she also raises her own crit on her plus ultra. So it should be no surprise that Midnight is S tier as a character. Like, she is really good for VE Tower, guys. The next character we're going to be placing is the new Fantasy Ochako or Uraraka, and this character has like pretty much the same things going on that Midnight has. I would argue actually slightly worse because she doesn't have the attack all or that Midnight has that does the status elements, but like, she's still really good. Okay, so Uraraka has action skill cooldown, which Midnight doesn't have, so I guess that makes them about even. And then she also has stun. She increases the team's and her own crit. If she has composure, she increases the team's crit, I should say. She increases plus ultra, and she has 2 technicals as well. Like, she is just really, really good. And so for that reason, the new fantasy Uraraka is also going up into S tier. The next character, Fantasy Kirishima. Oh man, while this guy is a beast, like top of the tier list for PvP, when it comes to PvE, it's a different story. He doesn't have crit, he doesn't have status elements, he doesn't have plus ultra gauge raise, he doesn't have anything going on for him that would help him be good in PvE or VE tower. Like, he just doesn't have much that's going to help him, other than he does have low cooldowns for the most part, but I still don't see him being used much. So I'm going to put him in F as never used, but like, because of the fact that he does have somewhat okay cooldowns, I think he could go into D, where he could be rarely used. He could be used on rare occasions, right? I do think he could be used on rare occasions potentially, but let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you think he should be in F for VE tower specifically, or in D tier here? Like, I do think he's one of the two though. And then lastly, we have the new Gen Pool Jiro. Now this guy is interesting, okay? So he has 2 technical hits, right? Both of his action skills are technicals. On his one action skill that does bind, he has a 70% chance to bind all opponents. So this is another character that could potentially land 3 status ailments if you're going against 3 opponents in a VE tower in 1 turn. That is really good. But here's kind of the icing on the cake. If you happen to get Jiro to level 130, he has pretty much a 100% chance to bind if you get his EX auto skill. That increases his chance to bind. So this is like the only character in game with basically a guaranteed status ailment. So that makes Jiro really, really good for VE tower in and of itself. And then he also has 5 and 4 turn cooldowns. Because he has a 5 turn cooldown, that kind of knocks him down a little bit. If he had 4 and 4, he'd be really good. But then besides that, he doesn't have any crit or plus ultra gauge raise for himself. So because of all those things, because he does have basically 100% chance to bind if you get him to 130, 70% if you don't, which is still really good on all opponents, and he has 2 technicals, we're going to put him into moderately useful for B tier alongside the new golden chance Bakugo, because I do see some uses for Jiro, and I would love to see a level 130 Jiro used in VE tower. I don't know how many people actually have that, but I'd love to see it. I'll get mine there eventually if I pull any other copies in future banners. But yeah, that is the new VE tower tier list, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, please go down there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and thank you guys for watching. Peace.